Andy T's hard-earned victory at Sebring was certainly a feel-good moment, but it also marks the third different winner in the first three races. Rina and Shimon claimed the top spot in the opening rounds and show no signs of slowing down. While the talent pool has increased immeasurably, if there was a track that could try to separate the wheat from the chaff, it's Motorsport. We'll see who can manage to survive this unforgiving circuit as we get ready to watch round 4 of the Lotus 79 Sunday Grand Prix Series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Peter Mackay. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Ducky Beard. Canadian Tire Motorsports Park hosted the Canadian Grand Prix for many years, all the way up until 1977. So while this car was just shy by 1 year to get to compete here, it still feels fitting. Let's head to our track guide to learn a little bit more. Welcome to Sebring International Raceway, home to the 12 Hours of Sebring, one of the most grueling tests in endurance racing. Welcome to Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, or as most fans know it, Motorsport. This circuit to the northeast of Toronto is a rarity in the world of racing today. Safety standards and the desire for more overtaking opportunities has caused most tracks to alter their layouts over the years. But Motorsport is still exactly the same footprint as it was when it was built in 1961. A mere 11 turns, most of which are high-speed sweepers, are dispersed among 2.5 miles, or just shy of 4 kilometers. The only alterations to the turns have been to the runoff areas, but otherwise the radii, camber, and elevation changes are all untouched. Because cars have continued to get faster through the passage of time, it's made this place a fearsome beast to tackle. Clayton Corner is particularly notorious. The blind crest and steep plunge combined with incredibly high speeds to create a punishing combination. Without many heavy braking zones, passing is often difficult. And other than using the slipstream up the Mario Andretti straight, the only other option is usually Moth Corner. This double apex hairpin is named after Sir Sterling Moss for his suggestion to redesign it after he saw its initial layout. While the plateau-like middle portion and critical exit onto the backstretch certainly give it plenty of character, the heavy compression at the bottom of the hill that causes a frighteningly short braking zone makes this one not for the faint of heart. Formula One, USAC, and IMSA have all taken their turns here, but recently NASCAR has joined the fray by holding a round for the Truck Series. Old school fans can rejoice for the enduring popularity of this bastion of untouched tarmac. But any motorsports enthusiast can't help but smile at the thrill Motorsport continues to provide. This is certainly a popular venue among many of the vintage series here on iRacing. But Peter, why don't you tell us how it's going to handle with these Lotus 79s trying to tackle this place?
Well, it's an absolute pleasure to be here at this amazing facility here at what is now known as Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. But when you say Motorsport, that's it does well. It puts the hairs on the back of your neck up a little bit. Of course, hosted 8 Formula One Grand Prix here at this amazing track. Sadly, not anymore. But wouldn't it be great to bring the F1 circus back here? But yeah, the big challenge here at Motorsport is it's very much it's very much a tale of two halves, because you have so many very high speed corners, particularly in these Lotus 79 machines. So you're going to see the ground effect aerodynamics really coming to the fore here in these cars. But the problem you've got is the Mario Andretti straightaway, which is uphill and quite a long straight. And of course, the more downforce that you dial in to help you round the fast corners in the rest of the lap, well, that's going to slow you down on the straight. So I think today we're going to see a lot of overtaking taking place on the Mario Andretti straightaway, with those who have got who are brave enough to trim out their cars and try and get that speed down the straight. It's going to be fascinating to watch.
Absolutely. And He usually puts on a good show in just about every series that comes here. Let's take a look at the standings for the Sunday Grand Prix series. Rina is currently up at the top. Vascalampi back there by about 20 points. Ascari has really been putting in good, consistent finishes that has helped him pull away a little bit here. Frisha trying to come back into things with his consistency, and Andy T jumps up with his victory last week, right behind by 1 point behind Frisha. Seppa back there has been clocking them in, and that's put him into fifth, but he's going to have to get some better finishes if he wants to jump higher up in the standings. We also have the Classic Teams Championship. Why don't you run through those team standings there, Peter?
So at the moment, it's Vascalampi and Andy T's team of Equip Renault Elf leading by 12 points from Scuderia Ferrari. In third is the Rango Aras Beta Racing team, and in fourth is the John Player Team Lotus, and also the Essex Team Lotus as well. Rounding out the top five is the Marlborough Team Alfa Romeo. So very much a look back into a gilded age, if you like, when tobacco sponsorship was in its prime in Formula One.
It certainly was. And for today's race in particular, well, we are in round four, as we mentioned, out of a 12-week season. 38 laps that they'll be running. They do get around here very quickly, so they have a lot to try and clock in. It is an open setup series. Now, in these old vintage series, the drivers are pretty open about sharing with one another, just because it's usually a bit of a steep entry trying to learn how to drive some of these cars. They have some penalties that they can accrue if they go over the edges of the track. That's going to be tough to do too much without wrecking the car here today. So I don't expect that to play too much of a part in today's race. Now, before we get to the qualifying that is underway right now, we want to remind you that you can advertise with us because GSRC offers a wealth of options to help you get your branding seen on a platform with over 1 million monthly impressions. If your organization is looking for a global audience to advertise with, look no further than GSRC. We've got a link in the description below if you want to see how to get your company on air with us. Right now, the qualifying, Juanmi Costa ahead of Ascari up there in the top spot on the front row. Andy T, last week's winner, only got one lap in, and that's put him into fourth. We're waiting on a few drivers to put their second laps in, including this man, Alex Millward, who unfortunately in the Camel Series seemed to not quite have the best of pace compared to what we've seen prior. And well, that seems to have carried over here to Motorsport as well, because he usually is vying for podiums.
Yeah, Alex Millward, of course, running in the Fly Saudi Williams colours last season, but now running for with some Guinness sponsorship as well. So all of the vices in the Lotus 79 Sunday series. We've got big horsepower, big aerodynamics, and unhealthy sponsors. Fantastic.
Let's see what he's got for this second lap. Can he put it higher than 16th? This is, like I said, uncharacteristic for him. A 107.6 is 0.3 quicker, but that only puts him up to 12th. He is still mired in the mid-pack. It is a split race today. For those not familiar with iRacing, if they reach a certain number of participants in an event, they split them out. So there is the drivers who have higher rated I rating, which is a rating you can earn on iRacing based on your finishing positions. And those higher drivers are who we're witnessing today as we watch Vascalampi continue practice, because looks like everybody has finished the qualifying here today. So our grid is set. We'll let Vascalampi do his thing as we go through the starting order for this top split here in round four. Juanmi Costa has put it on the pole with Ascari Rina starting in second. Tomasz Simon starts P3 with Andy T in the fourth position. Severi Seppa, I mentioned he needed to do a little bit better. Well, he qualified in fifth, and that's a good sign for him. Let's see if he can climb up just a couple spots in this race. Teemu Vascalampi will be starting in the sixth position with Marco Nurmella in the seventh spot. Eetu Vanio-Kangas will be in P8, and Carl Villeneuve starts in ninth. Pauli Partanen managed to get it just within the top 10 today.
In 11th position for this race will be Peter Gundieski alongside Alex Milward, who did manage to get up to 12th with hit that 1 minute 7.649. Frick Tankate will roll off on the 7th row of the grid alongside Jaka Letunder. Row 8 will be Marco Kella and Mike Rasmus. Row 9, Thomas Torp and Erwin Rothkranz. And on row 10 will be Paul Williams and Barry West.
Only 2 more drivers, and only one did not put a time in. Alexis Tapiavico was 21st, and Derek Rolveld was unable to get something down in qualifying, so he'll start at the back of our 22-car field. So we'll see how this plays out, even though it is not the largest of group to have to try and tackle this. But remember, the qualifying times, we're looking at a 1:06.9 for our fastest. Drivers are likely to be lapping one another very quickly in this race as they now start to grid up out on the very short run down to the first corner. In fact, that first corner, even at speed, there's, I think, barely a lift through there, Peter. So this will be interesting.
Yeah, it is. It's absolutely well, especially in one of these Lotus 79 Grand Prix cars. It will be pretty much flat out for the fastest. And you can tell I'm not one of the fastest by me saying cautiously pretty much flat out. It's either flat out or it's not. And I suspect it will be for the fast guys here. And just Motorsport for me is just wonderfully old school. I mean, through that opening section, such high downforce required, such high corner speeds, and yeah, we're going to see these Lotus 79s really stretch to their limit here. I'm very excited to see as we see the grid all the way back to nearly round the back of the final corner at White's.
Yeah, and hopefully the drivers trying to take off from there won't spin the tires too much. Thankfully, they shouldn't have anybody behind them on that start, as I think we're waiting just on Severi Seppa to get himself on the grid, and then we're ready to go for round 4. There he goes. Everybody is out and ready. That means the engines will start to rev. The lights come up. Green flag is out. Costa with a decent start, but not so for Rinna. He slows a little bit on the second phase, and Shimon is able to get by him into second place. Almost contact between Rinna and T as they start to siphon into single file here through Clayton Corner. We got one car wrecking in the back, and it looks like that's Rasimas. He gets clipped by 2 more, but otherwise, worse. Oh, got a big wreck as the car flies. One of the Renaults through the air and spinning.
Wow, gee whiz, what a start here at Motorsport as they come around down towards Moth Corner, one of the trickiest corners in North America. Originally was a hairpin, but Sir Sterling Moss himself decided to make it that double right-hander, and it's such a unique feature here. But Juanmi Costa, well, he is in a hurry, isn't he, Joe? He is not wanting to mess around. He wants to get a gap so that he can manage it throughout the rest of this race.
Already in the second over Shimon, who's under threat with Rinna, looking to take that second place back, but it's not meant to be as they now come into the S's. So your order is Costa, Shimon, Rinna for your top 3. T and Seppa round out the top 5. It is mostly single file until you get to a battle between Villeneuve and Millward. This is for 9th position, and it looks like they got a 3rd player in there in the form of Kineski.
Yep, straight away, opening lap, 1 minute 12 from a standing start for Juanmi Costa. That is blistering pace, and he is on a tear in that number 16 car. Thomas Simone in 2nd place. So we're looking back at Seppa in 5th position right now. We're looking out the back of the gearbox of that car. We're looking towards the very Seppa. We're on the gearbox of Andy T right now. Coming through Moss Corner, double right-hander. You've got to watch for the bump there, especially for the low ride height of these cars, could really get them unsettled.
All managed to navigate it successfully as they come up the Andretti straight. Looks like in front of them, Shimon and Rinna are going to separate a little bit. So no battle there. T still pulling in Seppa with that slipstream, but he runs out of straightaway as they head into the quick right-hander at the start of the S's. Behind them, you can see that Nurmella and Vanio Congas also have a little bit of a fight. This is for 6th place.
You know, one of our very high-profile, one of our very high-profile victims from that early incident, Teemu Vaskilampi, of one of my fondest memories of Lotus 79, was watching Timo Van Scalampi and Gernot Fritsch go head-to-head all race long at VIR, but Vascalampi in that Renault, of course, leading the Teams Championship, one of the cars that got fired into the wall, so not a good start for the Finn.
Certainly not. And speaking of those incidents, let's see what happened to Mike Rosimas here, as I believe he was the first one with a big incident. Oh, he actually avoided a spin from Lithunder.
I think Lithunder got a help, actually. I could be wrong. It looked like he maybe bogged off the start, and then it just carnage. I think is it for one of the Ferraris, this red car here. Yeah, gets a little bit of bogged down, and then gets a clip.
Get out of turn one. Lithunder's in the teal car right there. Oh no, he catches the curb. I think that started with him just getting a little bit caught up on that. And then the Vascalampi was a completely separate incident. So as we come back live, Vascalampi, I can tell you, just also clipped the curb. That spun him out on the exit of Clayton. And that was his day done. On third place, Rinna, stuck in no man's land right now. He's dropping off of Shimon, but he's not being caught by Andy T, who is still under threat. Interestingly, T not only has Seppa, but it's starting to become a bit of a four-car fight. Nurmella and Vanio Congas have closed in there. There you can see it from off the back wing.
Yeah, they certainly have, and what a disaster for Vascalampi as well, because of course, Joe, this is the main race of the week for these guys, isn't it? It's not like some of the other championships where you can race in official races almost every hour. This is the one big race of the week. All the guys put in a lot of effort in practice and in setup time, and then to lose it on the first lap must be so frustrating for these drivers.
Yeah, indeed. They have the Classic Teams Championship, which is a bit separate, where you can run multiple rounds. But in the Sunday Grand Prix Series, which is what we're covering here, it's just this race that counts for the points. So he gets a big old goose egg for that one, unfortunately. As we swing down through Clayton once again, and these four seem a little bit stuck. It does appear that it's proving kind of tough to get by, even with the slipstream down that Andretti straight.
It would appear so, yes. And just looking at the lap times, the consistency of the top 7 in terms of time, there is virtually nothing. Look at that. Third, fourth, and fifth, Rinna, T, and Seppa, virtually nothing to separate them. So they're all just kind of following in single file. A very, very quick single file, we must say. But yes, I must agree with you there, Joe. I'm surprised that we're not seeing more difference on the straight at this stage. But as the fuel burns off, it might be that then we start to see a little bit more of how these cars are set up from driver to driver. But well, that'll be interesting to follow. But of course, you come through this open part here, and here you just want as much downforce as possible. You're using all that underground aerodynamics, and then you're pretty much all the way to Mosh. You need as much downforce as possible.
Oh, we've got a problem with Thomas Torp. This looks like something out of White's. Let's see if we can figure out what happened to this Williams car. Oh, whoa. Car just suddenly whipped around on him out of White's corner. And when he comes back, he goes right in front of that Lotgrens and the number 11, who got a bit of a scare. And eventually Torp just takes a tow and calls it a day.
Oh, well, it looked like he clipped the carb on the inside there of White. Very typical accident there. So we're back to the leaders, or back in the middle of the pack, I should say.
No, we should go to the leaders because there was a change for the lead. Shimon ahead of Costa. And this must have happened down the back stretch because I just changed now. And you've got a replay here. You talked about the differences in the cars, and it looks like Costa was very slow in a straight line. Now, this hasn't been the case all the way through the race. There you see him just easily blow by around the outside. I wonder if he hit a bump and the underside of that car got damaged.
That's an interesting one. 1.3 seconds slower that last time around for Juanmi Costa, and he's suffering, isn't he? He's in big trouble here as Juanmi Costa. So we'll keep an eye on his lap times. For reference, Juanmi Costa 1 minute 9.6, Thomas Simone, a 1:08.6. And also Oskari Rinne in third, a 1:08.9. So really, really interesting. I wonder what happened to Juan Costa there. I think you could be right that there's maybe some curb damage from Moth Corner.
Keep an eye on it. Yeah, once again, his top end speed here on the straight does not look good because he was caught quickly by Rinne. We'll come back to that later, but it looks like he is limping as the 9th place battle between Millward and Villeneuve is side by side coming through the S's and into White's corner. This is going to be tricky for both of them as neither is willing to give up, but around the outside of White's, Millward muscles his way past.
Wow, what a move there to go around Villeneuve. I tell you what, this is a little tricky to get used to, a new season. It feels like we've had a crazy, silly season with, of course, Villeneuve used to be in the Ferrari, but now in the Parmalat Brabham. So he's gone from the Scarlet Red of Ferrari and now to the dairy and yogurt sponsored Brabham.
As they come down the hill into Moss one more time. That is Konecki back there behind them, following them the number 17. We're going to watch from on board, Peter, as he chases them down the backstretch, and he gets a very good run out of Moss. He might have a good shot here.
Let's see how we get a great view here, whether the draft, now here you go, right as soon as you get to that higher speed, the draft really becomes a factor. And look at the damage on the back of Carl Villeneuve's machine, just a little bit of rear wing damage, strangely. So something has occurred there at some stage. It's relatively minor, doesn't seem to be giving him too many problems, but just when you get into, of course, when you get to really up into top gear, fifth gear in these cars and stretching the revs up, that's where really we saw Konecki just really start to reel in Villeneuve.
So looks like he might have a good chance later on, the way he closed in down that straight. As they come through Quebec now. Millward, now that he's by, is putting some distance between himself and Villeneuve. So it looks like he was certainly being held up. So we mentioned before about wondering if Costa was going to be suffering. He hasn't been passed, but not only has Rinne caught him, but it seems like they're reeling in both T and Seppa.
Yeah, just looking at the lap times here on the timing screen, Joe, and what did you see?
I saw Rinne have to go way around the outside, and Costa tried to almost push him off track down the Andretti straight. It didn't work, and Rinne is through, but my goodness, Costa showing some desperation there.
Why am I having Senna and cross flashbacks here? It must be these white and red Marlboro cars nearly crashing into each other at the front of the field. But yes, Rinne is now, my apologies. Juan Costa now can't get into, he was very comfortable in the 1:08. He's now struggling to stay in the 1:09. So something has happened to Juan Costa. And it, for a driver of his caliber, gee whiz, Oskari Rinne has a huge moment. Wow, he did well to keep that one out the wall.
He catches it, but he loses a position as Andy T snuck by, puts him under threat from Seppa, who can't quite carry the speed to make an attack up through Moss Corner. Now he might get a shot here as they come up the Andretti straight. As they pick up speed, is Rinne going to be a sitting duck yet again? It doesn't look like Seppa's getting him as quickly as you would have thought. So he holds back in P5, but Oskari Rinne, unfortunately, find himself going from second down to fourth in one lap.
Well, Juan Costa is probably given a very large sigh of relief there because he was in big trouble, and yet still lapping in the 1:09. Juan Costa 1:09.4 last time around, and Thomas Simone, while this has all been going on, he has seized the opportunity. He's been the guy who to stay in the 1:08. And I tell you what, I mean, Joe, that John Player special livery, that's got to be worth at least half a second.
Certainly is quite appropriate. Shimon, who works his way out of the Moss hairpin, up the Andretti straight, 3.7 seconds, well clear, looking to take his second win of the season. He, of course, won the opening round at Road America, but having missed out for 2 rounds, he's trying to make up for it. Costa, once again, with his slow top end speed is under threat from Andy T now. T caught up to the S's, but then started to lose out as soon as they swung it into those fast curves. As they come down the front stretch and into turn one once again. He's going to have to hang on through the wake of these fast first few corners and then see if he can attack once they hit the long stretch.
It's strange because you just cannot see any damage at all on Juan Costa's car. So I think your point about the underfloor has got to be spot on there, Joe. And it's you know, through the fast stuff, it doesn't seem to be an issue. But for whatever reason, on the straight, it's causing him an issue. So obviously something causing him a little bit more drag than normal. So let's get riding on board with Andy T here in the Elf Renault. So let's see how this one comes about. Yeah, look at this. Andy, okay, he's in the draft, but he's definitely gathering pace. And look at this. This is, goodness me, who said GP2 engine? Wow, look at that. Mirror signal maneuver straight by.
Oh, and into the inside of turn 8, move Andy T up into second. Good place to be for Andy. Remember, he was our winner from last round as he goes a little wide out of whites. Unfortunately, Costa not able to capitalize on it. If something were to happen to Shimon once we start hitting traffic, obviously T is in a prime position.
He is indeed, but Thomas Simone is in another universe right now. 1 minute 8.6 last time around. The only other drivers right now who are in the 1 minute 8, Alex Millward in the Black Bomber, the Guinness car, in 9th place. So Alex Millward's on a bit of a charge as well.
Now, I am noticing that it seems like Costa through certain corners is much faster than T. In fact, they're getting really blocked up behind T right now. If we go back to the second place car, look at this. This is ridiculous, but now Costa's where he doesn't want to be, and even before they pick up speed. Rinna is clear and through. Can he carry this past Andy T as well? He's gaining speed. T covers off the inside. They go side by side. They come together. Banging wheels, but somehow both of them stay on track.
Oh, I thought that was going to be an absolute aeroplane crash, because that was, at that speed to bang wheels in these cars is a dicey game indeed. So that's fascinating then, because looks like Juan Costa, if he's in the draft, he has no such woes with straight line speeds. And like you said, Joe, is absolutely rapid around the corners, but that little bit of contact there, that could change the situation completely.
What's interesting too is some of the drivers have said recently that Rinna's earned a reputation, but at both times that Rinna's been involved with these sort of crazy happenings on the backstretch, neither's really been his fault. He's almost been squeezed off by the other person.
That's motor racing. Sometimes if you don't have a reputation, someone will make one for you.
All right, here he's got another shot. Does it happen again? He's gonna push him all the way to the edge, but he gives him more room this time. So he's gonna easily be through. Behind them, another change for position is Seppa easily breezes by Costa. So move Rinna up to second, Andy T to third, Seppa to fourth, and Costa all the way down to P5 off of pole position.
Yeah, Costa, he's really struggling now, but to be honest, doing a great job to compensate for the issues that he's obviously experiencing, not running the pace we expected him to. But really interesting watching Andy T there. I actually thought that although he had been drafted by himself by Rinna, it looked like he was maybe going to be able to make a move back again at the end of the Mario Andretti straightaway. So Andy T still got a lot of pace underneath that yellow and black, almost bumblebee paint scheme of the Elf Renault.
Rinna passed the Renault and managed to get himself into P2, but now he's got to pull away as behind them. It looks like trying desperately to get a better shot off the corner. Costa is doing everything he can to overcome his deficiencies. Nurmella, however, is going to once again demote him, and Costa now down all the way to 6th.
Well, Thomas Simone, he has checked out. He has questioned his bill and he is gone. He's in the taxi to the airport. He's away. 7 seconds in the lead and just banging out. He just put in, wow, that's nearly his fastest lap of the race. 1 minute 8.5. even Millward now not in the 1:08. He's the only guy in that lap bracket, and this is his race to lose now.
Indeed. The good news for him as well, we keep talking about the traffic. We're down to 18 cars. The attrition has gobbled a few up. Lithunder, Torp, Rasimas, and Vascalapi are all out. So there's a ways to go before Tomasz winds up getting tangled up with cars ahead as we watch T, now in third place, lose touch a little bit with Rinna, who seemed to have get himself some clear air and is making good by stretching his legs out. Still, you can see how far back this train goes. I believe it ends at 9th with Alex Millward.
Yeah, this is it's like watching a Moto3 motorcycle race here. There's just such a big draft train along the Mario Andretti straightaway. Now, this is going to be interesting to see because we're about half race distance. Just in 2 laps' time, we'll come around to half race distance. So
we've had
there is.
We've had Villeneuve. Villeneuve was side by side with Konecki through the S's, and unfortunately, this one ended in tears. Look at this, going wheel to wheel into there, and once again, both drivers were unwilling to give way. Oh, and almost looked like Konecki slid out just a little bit, and that was all they needed.
Oh, Villeneuve really unlucky there. He'd given the necessary room, but just that's one of those things that can happen in motor racing. Really, really unlucky for the Parmalat Brabham driver. So, well, now can Oskari Rinna do anything about the pace of Thomas Simone? He's certainly he's throwing everything at it. It was only 0.2 of a second off Simone's pace last time around. So the leaders are now starting to drop back into that 1:08 lap time bracket. So this is where, of course, we see this all the time, don't we, Joe? When these cars burn off so much fuel per lap that as they get lighter and lighter, they just get quicker and quicker and quicker throughout the race.
Oh, well, you asked if Rinna could answer Simone's pace. He ran a 1:08.4 compared to Simone's 1:08.5. So he's gaining.
Yep, he is indeed. Yep, he's put the gauntlet down, and 7 seconds at this level in 20 laps is a big ask. But as we've seen, nobody is immune from even the smallest mistake. And I tell you what, Joe, the thing that I always marvel at the standard of field that we have here in the Lotus 79 Sunday Series. And one thing that really shows it up for me is here at Moth Corner. I don't know how many times where I've commentated on races here at Motorsport, and Moth Corner, turn 5, the 2-part right-hander, there's always trouble there, and none of these guys have been caught out with it.
It seems to me that it's been turn 1 or in the S's that all the problems have been. You can see this train starting to catch up with Andy T. I wonder if he got a little bit of damage too when he had that banging of wheels. Also worth noting that Costa is now down to 9th as both Millward and Vanio Congas got by in a series of corners, not even just over the course of the lap, just very quickly disposed of him like it was nothing.
Oh, brilliant shot there on board Dougie Beard's, one of Dougie Beard's many helicopters. Now, this is his Canadian registered helicopter, of course. He's giving the brilliant camera work there as they come back through the... I can't imagine what it must have been like to drive. Of course, this car only came out 1 year after the Grand Prix left Motorsport, of course, when it moved over to Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal. But... I mean, of course, Jackie Stewart won here twice in 1971 and 1972. I can't imagine what it must have been like back in the day to drive this incredible circuit.
You want a hair-raising experience, Peter, definitely take the Lotus 49 out here on iRacing at Motorsport. It is a lot more difficult than you would imagine, especially up the back straight. It's barely flat out, let me put it that way. On a straight.
On a straight. Well, I imagine it would be very difficult, so that's a terrifying prospect if it's much more difficult than I would imagine. And actually in that car, in the very first year of that car's existence, the Lotus 49, Jim Clark put it on pole, but unfortunately had to retire with an ignition issue. But I'm, as you've probably guessed, I'm not Jim Clark.
Neither am I, so that makes two of us. looking at this train still, Vanio Congas and Partanen, we got a bit of a finish battle going on in the midst of it. He was looking on Partanen, couldn't quite get by. Look at how tucked up under the rear wing everybody is in this, what is becoming a second half of the train. They're splitting apart slightly. Partanen going to be under threat. Vanio Congas, though, is going to have to go the long way around as Pauli tries to make sure he doesn't have the easy way through. Can he hold the grip? It looks like he might be able to, and look at that. Vanio Congas will not be denied and slips into 6th place.
Oh, that's a textbook Motorsport move, coming through into the S's, just sling it around the outside and then in the inside for the switchback. Beautiful move there from the 14 car of Vanio Congas. Fantastic stuff.
One also keeping half an eye on, who's been sort of quiet in all this, is Marco Nurmella. We've watched him get a couple spots. He's up to 5th from 7th on the grid, but now he's challenging Seppa and challenging him well. He's keeping it glued to the rear, and all he needs really from what we've seen is that stretch down Mario Andretti straight is a little slide from Seppa. Shows how much he's pushing. Let's see. Andy T comes over the radio and says, all aboard the T train. He's clearly having a good time up there. But I think he might regret that flippant remark, because here comes Seppa up to his outside. Can Seppa make it happen? No. T's going to hold him back.
Oh, aboard the T train. Fantastic. Well, he's the locomotive at the moment. It's a good job. There's a lot of torque in that DFV engine, having to tow all these guys around behind him. And of course, you'll be able to see all that in his mirror. But brilliant stuff. Tell you what, this is. I wonder if the top brass at Formula One headquarters could watch this race and go, "Oh, look at that! They're overtaking each other! Wow!"
These are very different cars, and probably extremely difficult to drive in a different way from our modern ones, as Seppa continues to try to do what he can to peel that 3rd place away and get on the podium past Andy T. So right now we're going from 3rd place all the way down to poor Juan Costa, who's still clinging on. He's not given up on this one, but he doesn't seem to have the straight line speed to really compete with all these cars in front of him. T's going to have to do it again. Here goes Seppa. This time he gets farther alongside him, but it's not far enough alongside. The grip is just not there.
Well, I tell you what, Juan Costa doing a great job to try to hang on to the back of this train, but that said, to plagiarize a phrase of our buddy Richie Hearn, he always says you need a good dancing partner, and that's what Juan Costa needs right now, because when he's in the draft, he doesn't have a problem. He's got the pace on the straight line when he's in the draft, but when he's not got it, he's just a sitting duck. And I wonder if we might get a chance to chat to him after the race. Perhaps, hopefully, he'll come in and have a chat with us, because I'd love to know what on earth is going on in that car, because it's just not. There is just clearly a very big straight line deficit that's just appeared.
Absolutely. It's funny that you mentioned Richie Hearn as we continue to watch this train. I got to call a race with him here, and he actually raced here in Indy Lights way back. I asked him if it was flat out through there, or how long it took him to be flat out through Clayton Corner. And he said, probably not as long as it should have. So, seems like even on the climb up, the drivers have to have a lot of bravery through this course all through the years. Simone setting back-to-back fastest laps, and with quite a margin over Oscar de Rinna on one of those. This time, though, Rinna manages to respond a little bit with a 1:08.1 compared to Simone's 1:08.138. It was a 1:22. Actually, so Rinna stole it away seconds later. So Oscar now with our fastest lap. Excuse me. Oh no, and we've had problems with Costa. Costa's bad day just got worse. He's hit the wall at Clayton.
Oh, well, this is the corner we were just talking about. So let's see, it's a blind left-hander. Oh, just loses the rear, and well, round he goes. And just a light tap in the barrier. That shouldn't be too much of a problem. But yeah, out of contention for a good string of points there for Juan Costa. And Yeah, there's, perhaps maybe just having to really overcompensate, Joe, for the car not performing, and you can't say he wasn't trying. As we see, they're going too wide here through the S's. Wow.
Oh, multiple bits of action going on here. Team defends from Seppa somehow, I'm not sure how, and Millward on Partanen goes in Partanen's favor. That we could just see it on the corner of the screen, but Seppa almost losing the car as they went side by side. T is fierce today, trying to desperately hold on to third place. He is not letting anyone grab this one away.
Well, I tell you what, if you guys are still trying to think of a picture for the Global SimRacing Channel Christmas card, I think that double Lotus 79 oversteer shot has got to be up there for consideration. That was amazing.
This is why we love this series. It is just incredible racing. Costa apparently did get enough damage that it's hurt him as he's taken it into the pits now. Wonder if that is just a combination of whatever was plaguing him earlier along with hitting the wall just now. Meanwhile, here we go again with Seppa. He's been trying this multiple times. It hasn't quite worked yet. At what point does he try something different and try to get clever with Andy?
Oh, Andy T, he's doing a great job as the as the locomotive in the train as Oscari Rinna puts in a 1 minute 8.0. Wowee, that is the fastest lap of the race, and just under 2/10 of a second quicker than Thomas Simone. But Thomas Simone, that pace early in the race really put him with a margin that's a lot more comfortable for sure. But I tell you what, if Juan Costa can get into although he's in pit lane, if he can get that damage repaired and go back out on some new tyres, I love to see what pace he's got under that, just to come out and just do some time attack laps for some fun.
Seems like we've had an incident between teammates. Partanen has wrecked after getting passed by Millward. This might look a little aggressive once we get it up here, but I think there was a small bit of netcode involved in that, so it's just the unfortunate side of sim racing. Partanen struggling to get back. I think he did incur a lot of damage from that one, and he's down to 11th.
Oh my word, huge moment there for Nurmella. That looked like he was going to lose it there, but the car just twitched on him, and he managed to hold on to it very well, but that's killed his momentum. And oh, there you go. Oh wow, I don't think Vino Kangas was expecting, Nurmella to be going off pace. So how do you see this one, Joe?
Oh, well, let's take a look at the replay, because this is going to take a second look for sure. I mean, I don't blame Eto for trying something. I think maybe he should have gotten a little more space from Marco there, from me. But, I mean, it's always easy to talk from up here in the booth. I'm sure the drivers will have a better view on things. But Nurmella up first as he has to take it. Oh, and Millward now suffers as through the Moth Corner, he almost comes back on track in front of Kayla.
Oh, dear, dear, dear. So our Moth Corner has claimed its first victim that we've seen on camera, at least, comes in. Yeah, that's an absolute classic Motorsport. That's why so many fans like to sit there for the racing here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. So Millward has to get going back again, and he is dropped down to 8th place. So that train, there's carriages are dropping off this train behind the T train.
And it all seems to happen at once, doesn't it? We've had a succession of major incidents here, and this has meant that we are now down to 15 cars left out of 22 starters. Nurmella's gone and Costa is gone. We've still amazingly got Millward running, so he's surviving, well, gosh, multiple car contacts. Oh, I spoke too soon. Marco Kayla, and the number 2 is off. I shouldn't laugh, but wow, it's almost like this track is starting to eat them up, like it's an endurance race or something. People making mistakes as they get tired.
Well, I mean, we can't stress it enough just how mentally taxing these cars are, because they are so capable, aren't they, Joe? I mean, they've got so much downforce, and this track puts so much emphasis on that downforce that the drivers have got to almost step beyond what they think the limit actually is and go into the unknown. And over 38 laps, that is exhausting. And we don't see tyre wear to be much of an issue here in this particular car. But I think you're right. It's just a mental fatigue, a bit like an endurance race. Is Andy T having to hold off the advantage of Severi Seppa? But meanwhile, Thomas Simone putting in the fastest lap of the race, the first into the 1:07 bracket now. So the pace really hotting up.
We were talking about the T train, and it's gone down to basically an engine and a coal car now. It's just Seppa and T. They are trying to bring along Vanio Congas. He's looking to catch up after his contact earlier on, but it looks like it could be a breakaway here for a two-car fight for the podium. There you see Vanio Congas back behind the infrared machine, still chasing. 7 seconds, almost 8 seconds now, up to Tomasz Simon with 15 cars still left running here and 9 laps left. Rinna responds with the fastest lap of the race, but he has not been able to close in that gap. They seem pretty closely matched.
You need to be careful. Of course, Thomas Simon, it won't be long before he's coming onto lap traffic. 9 laps to go, and who have we got? He's got the 21 of Paul Williams is currently about 59 seconds or so back. So it won't be long before he's coming across some lap traffic. But these guys all race with each other regularly, so I'm sure there'll be plenty of respect shown from the lap cars.
I feel like we should mention is that I don't believe these cars have power steering, and that's modeled in iRacing. So unless you turn it up on your machine, as it looks like Seppa is going to have another run. We've seen this a lot. And is it going to be a repeat? Yep, Seppa's just going to back out. But I was going to say, unless you have the feedback turned down a lot, it can be physically exhausting as well for these drivers.
Well, I have to say, I love driving this car, and I have a pretty basic steering wheel in my setup here at home, and even then, I still feel it. I cannot imagine what I would imagine that most of the guys at this level will be using a direct drive system, which probably feels like this is trying to pull your arms out their sockets. God knows what the real thing is like.
You certainly do need to watch out. We've seen plenty of drivers in IndyCar form the habit of pulling their hands away from the wheel so that they don't break wrists. I can tell you that one of our comms and team members here on GSRC, I can't remember if it was broke his wrist or thumb, but John Ambrose unfortunately had an accident where there was a glitch and he got stuck in a wall and actually got injured by his direct drive wheel. Hopefully we don't see that with these guys, because Seppa is actually the farthest along we've seen, but he can't chop down as he's not clear. He's going to hold his ground, though, as they come up into turn 9. Oh, and a big slide from Andy T. Finally, he's made to crack as Seppa gets up into third. Oh, and he closes off on Vanio Congas, and T is frustrated. He's pulling some wild moves here to keep the bleeding from going on.
Oh my word. That was a brilliant, typical Motorsport S's round the outside there from Seppa. And I tell you what, Andy T had been covering that move off one by one, but it just feels like now, I think the air has very much deflated out his balloon right now, because he's gone, oh, I've got no more in the tank here, because, a little nudge there from with Vanio Congas there, just a slightly unfortunate one. But yes, that's poor old Andy T. He's been defending like a lion there and just ran out of steam with 7 laps to go.
That one, though, was some net code. Those two cars were not really close to one another. Freaked and Kate, though, in Moth Corner, our second victim on that one. Though he seems to have got away very lightly here. Let's watch on the replay. He actually manages this with a very cool head, I must say. Look at that. Just kind of slows it down a little bit. Oh, and then it goes around. He almost had it. He could have just reeled it back on, and unfortunately the rear lost grip.
That almost reminds me a little bit about our 10 seconds of fame recently, Joe. I don't know if you've seen it. This this month's not the top 10 with Lotus 49 at Watkins Glen with a complete 90-degree sideways moment coming up the S's, and then a lap later he's on the roof.
Is that my special commentator's curse? Is this my superpower?
It is. It's the infectious, COVID. If you're driving with you on comms, Joe, you need a face mask on.
As we come back to parts, and remember, we've seen a big wreck from Marco here earlier, so I think he is down on speed. But if I'm not mistaken, so wrecked. So this is the race of damaged cars. You can see it with the rear wing. Both of them basically doing the best with what they've got.
Yeah, it's a new aero upgrade there to the Lotus 79.1. As well, I remember this reminds me as they go side by side down the Mario Andretti straight away. Who's going to have it into the S's? Neither car at their best at all. Not how Colin Chapman intended them to be. Oh, gets round through the S's. But it reminds me of the 2009 season when Felipe Massa and Ferrari were really struggling with pace, and Felipe Massa got quite a bit of front wing damage but carried on and went a second a lap quicker, and his English crew chief Rob Smedley came on and said, well, we've solved our problems.
Exactly. So, second place, Seppa and Vainio Congas. Another Finnish battle here, and it's teammates this time between the two Ferraris. What is this going to do between them? He's gotten up into the podium, but he's got to hold on to it from his fellow Finn. As you can see, Shimon still setting fastest laps. As Rinna is doing his best to hold on to that, but just doesn't have the pace to close quick enough. Oh, and side-by-side action between Millward and Konieczny, and Peter's going to come out on top.
Well held there from Alex Millward. That must have been full opposite lock and then some more. Wow, it's amazing. It's just as he asked from the power from that 3-litre DFB Cosworth V8, all 10,000 RPM opening up, and then he just had a big old oversteer moment there. And look how busy he is on the wheel. Look at this. You just get a great impression. So if you see on the sim here, you see the wheel moving back and forward. You cannot imagine what that will be like on board the rig of Alex Millward. Fantastic insight there. Good camera angle there from Dougie Deere.
Stays with him. He'll get another shot. Last round was very tight between them through those S's. And Konieczny's going to cover off the inside. He comes back to the racing line. Millward sticks with it, but he's too late as they now get into the wake through the S's. Oh, but he gets into the back of him. Oh, and it's a huge hit upside down for Peter. So he's done as Millward's able to continue on. We'll watch it one more time. I think Alex is going to have some words with a few drivers after this race, the way things have been going.
That's a strange one. It looked to me that Peter just slowed all of a sudden. That was bizarre, actually. I think he just checked up and it caught Alex unaware. We maybe get another look at it, but back at towards the front, this is the battle for the podium between the Ferraris.
Indeed, and Vainio Congas has closed it in. Speaking of words between drivers, even though we don't have an interview, we did hear from Marco Nurmella, who puts himself blameless on that one. He claims that he didn't have a chance before he realized that there was a car to his inside. So obviously got to give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt on that one. I'm sure they'll have more to say amongst each other on that incident as we watch the two Ferraris come down to 2 to go now. Vainio Congas lacks many opportunities, but he could get there.
Yep, it would only take the slightest of mistakes from Severi Seppa, but he's been lapping strongly. But speaking of lapping strongly, the game of fastest lap of the race tennis between Thomas Simon and Oskari Rinna goes on and on and on. It seems like as soon as Oskari Rinna got into second place, that pair have just matched each other blow for blow all the way to the end of this race. But this is fascinating. And I have to say, I get a little bit nervous when you see two Ferraris bickering over a position.
Isn't that the truth these days? So they come up the backstretch. By the way, 14 cars left now with Konieczny out. So this, I didn't mark down attrition as a factor, but I probably should have. The way things are going, a bit shocking how much here in top split drivers have fallen afoul of the difficulty of this track. Meanwhile, this is our leader, Tomasz Simon. He didn't put it on pole. In fact, he didn't even put it on the front row. He started from third, but it seems the race pace is in favor of the number one machine, as that Lotus has stretched away and has not been bothered ever since the start of this race. Around the Moth Corner for the last time, he gets on the throttle to send it up the back stretch. It looks like he's actually even managing his pace now, as it's down to 7 seconds between himself and Rinna. You can see the lap cars behind him. That's just Williams and West, so that is not for position. Tomasz Simon, as he swings it through the S's, going to be our first repeat winner here this season in the Lotus 79 Sunday Grand Prix Series, and it happens here in Canada at Motorsport. A win for the number one machine here today.
What a drive from Tomasz Simon. I mean, he got the breakaway, and as soon as he had that opportunity, off he went. But Oskari Rinna, good drive from Oskari Rinna. But look at the Ferraris. Here we go. Is it going to go down to the very last corner at White's? The very separate in front. Final Kangas behind? No, they hold the position, so they come home in flying formation in third and fourth. Well, here's the locomotive himself, Andy T, the T-Train, and yep, he gets it home in fifth. You kind of think that he had a chance for a podium today, Joe?
I think he did, but let's go back to Vico and Partanen, because they are fighting for position for 8th place, with Partanen to the inside with a damaged car, and he just doesn't have the speed, as Vico is able to get around him for one last spot on the final lap. There he goes through. Looks like we do have Barry and Williams, who are a lap down. They finished with West ahead of him in 12th place. That means all of our drivers are now done. So let's take a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing Channel. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. Don't go away. Welcome back to Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. An absolutely frantic race that we had today for round 4. Wound up with Tomasz Simon, probably the only one quiet out there, way up ahead of Oskari Rinna in 2nd place. Severi Seppa climbing up onto the podium and bringing his fellow Finn along behind him. Etu Vaniokongas barely back by 2/10 into 4th place, climbing from 8th for him. Poor Andy T. He did his best to hold on to that podium spot, but he had to settle for P5 in the end. And Alex Millward, with well, a few incidents along the way, wound up with P6. Freakton Kate at least managed 7th, with Vico behind him in P8, climbing, by the way, from 21st position. Paolo Partanen in 9th was followed by Marco Kela, rounding out your top 10.
In 11th place, and the last car on the lead lap was Derek Roelevelt from the back of the grid. Good drive from him. Barry West was 12th, followed by Paul Williams, Erwin Rothkrans, and Peter Koniecki. Marco Nurmella, after that incident at turn 1, finished in 16th. 17th was Juan Costa. 18th, Carl Villeneuve, followed by Thomas Torp and Jaki Lathunder, who was involved in that little skirmish at the beginning. And finally, Mike Razumis and Teemu Vaskalampi, who both were taken out on the opening lap.
So let's talk to our 2nd place finisher, Oskari Rinna, as he joins us here in the booth. And Rinna, it looked like you had a bit of a fight at the beginning, but once you got clear, you could kind of hold your own. Tell us about the battles there up at the front with that big train.
Yeah, hi guys. Yeah, so my start was not. It was decent, but Thomas got me on the start, and then I knew I had to stay with him, and then I made a mistake lap 10 on the exit of turn 3, and yeah, I just somehow managed to save it, but then I was stuck behind. Not stuck behind, but a couple laps behind. I think it was Eetu and Andy, and I got them, and then I just knew there was no way to catch Thomas. He was really, really quick. We were doing the same kind of lap times, but there was no way to catch. So it was just smooth sailing after that.
Certainly looked like you were pushing as you two were trading fastest lap back and forth. We talked last week about how some drivers kind of called you out on a reputation, but we kind of noticed that you got raced hard by others this time. There was a few times you got squeezed off. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if Andy expected me to be there, because it was really strange how he squeezed me on the grass. I don't know what was that all about, but yeah, I got raced hard, but it's fine. It's fine because it's more fun like that. But that move was a bit too much. But
glad to hear that you're at least having fun with it out there. Again, congratulations on a second place. Anybody you'd like to thank today?
Yeah, I would like to thank your colleague Ossian for giving me his setup from Thursday. So I had really low downforce, so it made the overtaking easy.
Some secrets going on behind the scenes amongst the Finns. Again, congratulations, Oskari.
Yeah, thanks.
That was our second place finisher. Fifth place, and who certainly gave us a lot of entertainment, was Andy T. Peter is talking to him.
Andy T. Well, you were certainly doing a great impression of a railway locomotive there.
Yeah, that was pretty good fun being the train conductor. I would do that again.
Now, who was your favourite Thomas the Tank Engine character? You can choose whoever you want. We can come up with some merchandise for you, some Andy T. Thomas the Tank Engine merchandise.
With a fat controller.
The fat controller, fantastic. For me, it was Gordon because he was the fastest as well. But anyway, back to motor racing, Andy. How was that today out at Mothsport? It looked an awful lot of fun.
Horrible. I hate this track so much. Moth Corner is just my nightmare. No confidence on the brakes there, which is why I was the cork in the bottle. Just horrible. Do not like this track. Glad to see the back of it.
I have to say, I wonder if they call it Moth Corner because of the great Sir Stirling Moss, or is because you would have more grip on actual moss.
Yeah, probably. Wasn't great. Sebring was going to get by the second I made one minor mistake in moss. And he did. Credit to him, though, he held his lines really well. Good racing all round, apart from me and Eetu at the end. I threw a late block on him. I saw him really late and didn't see his closing speed, so really sorry for that. That could have been horrific. And then we came together in Moss. iRacing decided that if your cars are 1 foot away from each other, then one of you has to die. And unfortunately, that was me.
Yeah, that was very unfortunate indeed. Now, final question for you, Andy. The obviously this track demands a real compromise on setup because you've got one part of the circuit which is just hugely dependent on aerodynamic grip and therefore more downforce. But then, of course, you got the long drag up the hill from the Mario Andretti straightaway, which obviously requires very low drag. How did you balance your setup for this track?
Honestly, I relied on a friend. So thanks, Tamas. I'm horrible here. So there was no chance of me developing a setup because I just can't feel the car. I hate this track so much. But if you do want some information on the setup, you should probably talk to Ossian, your lovely colleague, because he fed a nice setup to Oskari today.
Well, I have to say, if there's, I need some help to go faster in this car on any track, so I will be speaking to my esteemed Finnish colleague. Now, very quickly, Andy, before we let you go, who would you like to shout out to here on GSRC?
All the Lotus drivers, really. Everyone's fantastic. Shout out to Teemu. He took a leaf out of my book, I think, and maybe span all on his own. And you guys, thanks for doing the broadcast. It's great.
Well, Andy, thank you very much, and go and enjoy the rest of your Sunday.
Fifth place finisher Andy T, who's becoming a bit of a fun interview that we have here regularly. So let's close it up, and of course with a big thank you to the Lotus 79 community as well from us for bringing us back for another season of coverage. We want to give a thank you to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. And additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. Her contacts as well there if you want to get a hold of her. Thanks to the team today, Peter, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. Our social media outlets include Twitter, which is at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. Our merchandise store is linked below. It's simply gsrc.storenv.com. And while you're down there, make sure and subscribe to our channel. The next race, of course, was coming on Sunday, October 11th at 12:30 p.m. Eastern. But coming up very soon, stick around. It's the first round of the IMSA Triple Crown Challenge. That'll be over on iRacing's channel, but we'll be covering the race at Charlotte at 2 p.m. Eastern. However, until next time, race clean, race hard. See you on the track.